Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, I'd say, because it's currently quarter to 3 morning, morning. My name is Muhammad Imar Abrams, and welcome to Perfectly Imperfect. I decided to start this series on our YouTube channel called A Dose of Personal Reflection. Essentially, the series is about reflecting on ourselves, learning how to get to know ourselves, and getting to know ourselves much better. Because we have to admit that in today's society, people take little time, ourselves, including me, take little time to reflect on their personal lives, as in intimate themselves, how to better themselves, how to love themselves, essentially. So we're always trying to we're always trying to keep up with technology, keep up with fashion, keep up with whatever trend is online, instead of trying to keep up with ourselves or taking time out for ourselves. This needs to change if we truly want to change. One of the most important relationships we should have is with ourselves, not with our best friend, not with our girlfriend or boyfriend, not with our wife or husband or our colleagues, but with ourselves. That is utmost important. So, in the first episode of A Dose of Personal Reflection, I want to speak about learning to love yourself with imperfections and how can we love ourselves on a much higher level. So I want you to reflect, take a moment to reflect on the last time you've actually thought of something positive about yourself, or even said, hey, I really like this about myself, or I really love this about myself. It's been quite a while, for all of us. We take very little time to admire what is actually good about all of us. Now I want you to go back and think on a memory where you've thought something negative about yourself, where you've said, hey, I really don't like this about myself. This isn't nice. But think about it. It's probably been yesterday, the day before yesterday, or even today or last week. It's been pretty recent because we've been grounded in this belief that you have to be a certain way, look a certain way, and act a certain way in order to be accepted. But that shouldn't be the case. You should love yourself no matter what. Therefore, we reinforce this negative behavior which we actually shouldn't be reinforcing. Learning to love yourself is, of course, not an easy journey, and it's not a straight path. It's one of the hardest things you have to go through in life. Because if you look at it, we have the most intimate relationship with ourselves. We know our imperfections. We know what we don't do right. We always know what is going on with ourselves. Therefore, it's hard to accept ourselves or love ourselves with those imperfections. So how do we stop reinforcing this toxic behavior which can lead to a great amount of self-hate? Well, I found three pretty cool tips on how to learn to love yourself better, and they're extremely easy to implement. They will sound ludicrous right now, and they will seem awkward and weird when you do it at first. But what you need to understand is that reinforcing negative behavior, it becomes the norm. Now trying to change that behavior is the hardest thing to do because you've always reinforced negative. Now you gotta make positive the norm. So it's going to be difficult the first few days or even the first few weeks. But after that, it will start becoming a more, let's say, second nature, and you do it instinctively. So let's start. The first thing, number one, is a morning discussion. In the morning, when you get up, try and work into your routine a little one-on-one discussion with yourself. This technique is especially effective because what it is doing is it's training your mind to always think positively about yourself. As much as we like to believe that love and having lots of feelings, that comes from the heart, it has much more to do with how your brain sees itself and what type of attitudes you place and types of ideas that you place in it about yourself. So the easiest way to do this is to try every morning to name one thing positive about yourself, one thing that you truly love about yourself, that you can say, I really love this. Make a pact with yourself and say, I won't get out of bed until I have named one thing positive about myself. And soon enough, by a week, you would have seen 7 things that you really love about yourself. In a month, you would have seen 30. And in a year, you would have seen 360 something, I think. Oh, it's just joking. I know it's 365. Just get some more too. Okay. So think who can't love themselves after naming 365 things that they actually love about themselves? We don't even have 30 things that we love about one person. Now what about yourself? So try and reinforce this behavior. The next thing, a daily injection of good. Sometimes the best way to feel good about yourself is to do good for others. In the famous movie Noah's Ark, where Morgan Freeman acts in, he repeatedly utters the same words. How do you change the world? You change the world through one random act of kindness at a time. I think we can use this on ourselves as well. Do something good, whether it be spending time with your family, whether it be helping an elderly person with their groceries, or even helping your friend out during a difficult time. After you've done that, you feel a sense of you'll feel rejuvenated and much more appreciated. And after that, you'll be overcome with this warm feeling of, I actually can't describe it. But when we do good for others, we are indirectly doing good for ourselves. So, the third one, keeping a journal. Now, in the 21st century, this does sound a bit weird because we don't keep journals anymore. Nobody takes time out of their day to reflect on what has happened during the day. And I think that could be the issue, because when you're reflecting on what has happened, you are actively taking in what has taken place the entire day. And what you are doing is that you are appreciating and having gratitude for what has happened. You're taking time out of your day to make time for yourself, which is extremely important. Journals are not only useful for keeping records of yourself, but it's also useful for reinforcing an attitude of self-love. I personally do keep a journal, but I only write in it once every few months or weeks. It's a random, but I've decided that I'm going to start taking an active part in writing in the journal every single day. Set a time for when you should do it and do it every single day, because this can help you to love yourself and have gratitude for what has taken place. It doesn't even have to be a long, lengthy accord of what has taken place from 6 o'clock when you got up and had breakfast to 9 o'clock when you went back to sleep. It could just be 3 or 4 sentences. As long as you are taking time out of your day to appreciate yourself and to appreciate what you have accomplished, even if it's something small. Even great monarchs, kings and queens have kept diaries. It has been a consistent thing through the British monarchy especially. Queen Victoria is the most famous because she kept the most detailed record of a personal journal of all monarchs that ever existed in history. So we need to start reinforcing this behavior, because we spend all too much time in front of screens instead of just taking a moment to appreciate what is there and what can be accomplished on your own. I hope you enjoyed the video and will implement some of these strategies. My goal is to post every single Monday in order to have a week so that we could work on whatever is said and what I can personally also work, because I'm going to try and do all of these things that I've mentioned. So see you in the next one, and I hope you like and subscribe.